I didn't think we'd be here, but actually we've got these really great user cases and there's so much great kit in the market that we can just deploy rooms really easily. You know, the Neatboard install into the rooms took us less than an hour, which is amazing.
Welcome back to the Teams Insider podcast. This week we have a great customer journey story all around Teams, both Teams Phone and Teams Rooms. It's Kingfisher. You might not know the brand, but they have around 80,000 employees and 1,900 stores around the world. And brands like Screwfix and B&Q that you might know. It's really great to hear a conversation of how innovative they have been, particularly putting video everywhere in their organisation, including in the actual retail stores. So many thanks to Matt for taking the time to jump on the podcast. He's great at explaining the whole journey. And also many thanks to Logitech, who are the sponsor of this podcast. Really appreciate their support of Empowering Cloud. On with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We always love to get a customer perspective on the podcast, and this should be a really good one. Matt's previously spoken at the London News Group and now on the pod. Hey Matt, how you doing?
I'm good, Tom. Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming on, mate. It was a great story at the News Group, so thanks for offering to do the podcast as well. So maybe we could start, you could give us a little bit of an intro to yourself and your role. And Kingfisher is quite an interesting org, so like talk about some of the brands in the group and how all that hangs together.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my kind of IT journey being a kid, you know, taking apart PCs and any kind of tech and being the general nerd. And then I moved into, you know, doing my college, and I went to Bournemouth Uni to do my degree. And then I moved into Kingfisher PLC as a graduate. So I joined Kingfisher as a nice grad, fresh out of university. And then I went around a number of different teams and really found my passion in end user services, where I am now as an M365 Product Designer. So essentially that means I look after the Microsoft 365 suite. I look after everything, not Dynamics, we'll keep that out, but M365 entirely, but also look after the collaboration side. So meeting room experiences, booking panels, or anything kind of collaboration, audio, visual wise, we also look after that as well. So Kingfisher is probably a brand no one knows, but actually people probably know B&Q and Screwfix in the UK. So we have B&Q and Screwfix, and then we have Castorama and Brico Dépôt in France and Romania, Spain, Poland. We operate 12 head offices, 80,000 colleagues across European and European continent and Asia. So we're really big DIY home improvement.
Yeah, huge and diverse user base. And also you've got the challenges of retail and frontline. You've obviously got back office workers, but you've also got different brands within there, which is fun in the M365 world as well.
Yes, so it's all in a single lovely tenant that we help look after. Like I said, they're all really unique. So they all have different unique needs and wants, right? B&Q is a very different, if you've been to B&Q in the UK, it's very different from going to a Screwfix, and that feeds into that frontline worker experience. So it's a really big organization. And then you go out into Asia, which is our sourcing offices, right? And that's a whole different kind of setup for the guys there. So it's really diverse, really interesting time for retail, because it's always changing. Retail is really pushing forward. You even see big companies go back in, who are e-commerce, that go back into retail, because there is a really interesting experience there. So yeah, I think you see us opening different kinds of stores. Screwfix, I think, is 900 stores in the UK. Which is crazy to think about. And then you have different kinds of big box, small box. You know, we're always trying to experience different sizes to meet like the customer needs. So there's always a lot going on in retail to innovate, which is a really exciting place to be. And
you guys are pushing the Teams technology right into the retail store. We'll get into the details later, but you know, that's really interesting. It's not your classic. A lot of retail, it's like we use Teams on the back end and we use something else on the retail side. But you're really pushing even room systems right through to the retail stores, which is really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something really unexpected to come out of all of this, and I think it shows the people's desire to collaborate in a hybrid way, even more than that was driven primarily through COVID. And I'm sure lots of companies had the same challenges during COVID. But then we see even after COVID, there's still such an appetite to keep adding meeting room experiences to nearly any kind of site that we have across the globe. So it hasn't slowed down. We've just had a number of meeting rooms at the end of the year. More demand. We do them in distribution centres. We do them in head offices. We do them in stores.
So talk us through what that looks like, your team's journey. Did you start on the Link Skype road and come to Teams? Was Teams the first deploy?
Yes. So we started our journey probably around 2019, 2020. We had a couple of telepresence systems, so Cisco telepresence, and we had a number of media lines, polymedia lines. And then the primary experience, those are selective experiences, was spider phones, right? Audio only spider phones. There's no screen in the room. It's purely a audio only experience that's driven by, like you said, Link/Skype. And actually, it's interesting to be where we are now, where every room in Kingfisher is video. So we started at this really cool, interesting spot of really selected hardware, really bespoke hardware, and mostly an audio only experience for most colleagues, and we ended up in that really great space of video only. What we did to transition that, though, was kind of years of work with all sorts of different colleagues that have been in the team to achieve what we now think is a pretty great experience. I think we had such a great partners in Logitech, in Neat, in Yealink. All the partners have been amazing to us to help us innovate and to help us bring these rooms to life.
It feels like your team were very diligent on the choices you made in terms of kit and what worked for you. And you talked a lot in the user group about standards and driving standards as well. Yeah,
definitely. I think one of the biggest things we want to do is decomplex. We wanted to make something just really easy for people to use. And we found some of the media lines and the telepresence, they were driven also by CBIs, they're driven by interop services. And actually, we found that could we find a different solution that was even more reliable, that could deliver an even simplistic experience to users. And around that 2019, 2020, that experience of a Skype room was coming out, right? Microsoft was experimenting with them. There's a few different partners. There's Yealink, there was Logitech, Crestron. There's a few different partners we tried out internally, and we looked and we really liked some of the Logitech stuff. So we actually replaced, during COVID, which is an interesting time to replace anything. We replaced the media lines and the telepresence with Logitech. Yeah. So we did Rally Plus kits for around 20 rooms, and we kept the trios in place. So it was kind of it was a small video experience, primarily audio only. But actually, during those those pauses during COVID, where we went under lockdown, we couldn't get to the offices, or was very select individuals in the office, that actually let us test the kit longer, which was quite interesting. So we got longer term feedback, and so. No rollout is perfect. So we took that feedback from the colleagues, and then we really tried to push out, and then we tested, we broke things. Not every meeting room survived the deployment to all the users. So we tried to really innovate, to really push forward and make it really simple. So I don't know if anyone remembers the platform in 2020. It was an interesting time. But as the platforms evolved, the kits evolved, it's become this really great, reliable experience. I think we've got a number of rooms where, colleagues gave us feedback. Colleagues also like to touch the kit. So it's things like, do we remove the PC from the room maybe, and maybe move it away from someone's feet? The rally cam, people like to go up to the rally cam and give it a twist. So there's all those little feedbacks, right, that we took, and Logitech at the same time innovating. And then we moved from that kind of place of, okay, we feel comfortable with the kit, we feel comfortable with the platform, we're getting really good feedback around, it's just really simple. You just click the join button and it just works, which is just what we want, right? So we did this great rollout, and then we pushed even further. We took those lessons learned, and then we pushed into, rally bars and rally bar minis and, all sorts of different places where we didn't think we would end. So then we ended into over 250 rooms in our head offices now that are video enabled, MTR enabled. We've got a mixture of BYOD and MTR. But everything is video. So like you said, setting those standards was really important. And one of them is every room has to be video enabled. So there's no audio only experiences. It's all video only.
I love hearing that, because that's how you set a culture change in play. It's not, oh, sometimes I can do video and sometimes I can't. If it's always there, it becomes more video is the default, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of the two driving principles, right? The driving principle was simplicity. Just wanted it to be just more simple for people to use and to enable video, because, having only 20 rooms with video before COVID and having 250 rooms with video after COVID is an interesting place to go. It's totally different landscape. And even though we've seen people come back to the office, actually there's such an appetite for hybrid working still. And actually generally, you'll find you don't need that flight to Europe, right? You don't need a flight to Paris. You just jump on a Teams call in a room that does really well. So yeah, we've done this really big meeting room journey over the last 4 or 5 years that we've had loads of help with, everyone from like facilities to other teams. Like, networks is the foundation of these rooms. Mm-hmm. They don't work without really great networking. So it was a massive team effort within Kingfisher to just get these rooms into a really great place where people come up to us and they give us really great feedback. The feedback we get is amazing, and we're always looking for more, but we've had some really great feedback on the rooms, really great experience. So it's about kind of what do we do next.
So Matt, you've been doing quite a lot of innovative stuff around rooms. You've shared stuff with me in the past. What would you pick out as some of the more interesting things you've been doing in the Teams room space?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've been working with our partners to do some of the latest and greatest tech. I mean, we've worked with Logitech and we've installed a number of sites. So we've had some really great feedback around people feel that's more immersive, and from the far end, people love it. So the Logitech site's been a really great addition. We're working with Neat to get some of the centers as well. So really excited for some of the centers with the Neat boards.
So you've seen value in that multicam for the remote end, like being able to frame multiple people and get that kind of more detailed picture.
I think the really interesting user case for us is also some of those longer rooms. So we've got quite a few boardrooms that are 12 meters, 15 meters, and currently they've got, some quite expensive, quite advanced, people remember the Eagle Eye Director 2, which is an amazing camera by Poly.
Yeah.
People love that camera. It's got amazing range. And actually the site, what's interesting is with the site is you bring the camera to the people. So actually, I'm begging Logitech to give me a date on when they're going to allow us to do 2 sites.
They did talk about it, release, didn't they? The idea of daisy chaining. So that is a potential.
The daisy chaining, I think, for us would actually enable a lot of boardroom scenarios, and a lot of rooms that have longer range cameras don't need them anymore. Mm-hmm. And you improve the experience for remote participants as well. So it's kind of a win-win, and you get a mic pod built in as well, which is also great. So it's a real interesting there. We've done a lot of tech around digital whiteboarding. So digital whiteboarding is a really interesting one for us. So the Logitech Scribe, content cameras, and we've also worked with Dell. Dell have like a number of interactive screens that are kind of built for that kind of MTR purpose. So we've got some mobile MTRs with these big interactive Dell screens, which is really cool. So it's really trying to understand the future of a whiteboard. Some people just love a Post-it and a pen and they just want the whiteboard, but we're trying to figure out kind of what does that mean? How can we improve that part of the collaboration experience? Neat boards, of course, Surface Hubs, of course, they all fall into that category. So it's kind of, do you have an all-in-one unit? Do you have a Dell screen added to maybe one of the screens in the room? And that's interactive. Do you go the Scribe? So there's some interesting choices around whiteboarding we're trying to explore. And then we've got some really big rooms in Kingfisher. So we've got some really big auditoriums, from 100 people to 250 people.
So what have you done for kit there? Because that's an interesting use case, right? Because everybody gets the, I can put a board or a bar in a 15-person room, but what do you do for the auditorium?
Yeah, the auditoriums are a tough one because, like you said, it's such a big room. It's mic coverage. It's lapels. So we've got our one over in France, which is, we just renovated it. So it's got we've redone all the speakers. We've got new amplifiers, new DSP feeding into a Logitech base mm-hmm. unit. And Dell compute. And that's powering the MTR experience, plugged into a number of projectors, 100-inch plus projectors across the room with mics everywhere, lapels, multi rally cams. So it's quite interesting because, again, it comes back to what I spoke about earlier, is trying to make it really simple. How do we do really big rooms but really simple? It's really hard when you get into the world of DSPs and ceiling mounted microphones and speakers.
Well, that's something where Teams has really matured over the last few years with things like Biamp and Shure and Sennheiser, where you can do structured audio, multiple ceiling tiles, multiple mics, and I've seen the lapel, and I don't think Shure's day of certification, but they're handheld mics that are going to be certified as well, or the proximity mics. So it's nice from a rote experience. It's the same old experience on Teams, which is nice. It's not something weird for that scenario. Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because like you said, you've got the Shure experience, which we do have as well in our new London office, which is, Crestron, AVX, 1B1 cameras. It's got Shure microphones. So it's got some really great kit in it. And it's almost, how can we also replicate that in other sites, but then try and even make it more simple and reduce the complexity. And like you said, the fact that you can have multi-camera just on the tap panel, right? You just click the panel and you can set the multi-camera, just smaller things like that. Kind of you move from that production space into a more standard space where kind of anyone can pick it up and use it. And that's been a real driver for us, is really big spaces. How would you just make it really simple? Because that's how people are going to get the best out of it. Because it comes back to, I want to join, I want to click my button and join the meeting, and it just works. That's what we want to get to. Yeah, if you can give the presenters in those auditoriums the confidence that piece is being handled, they can get on with doing their job, which is presenting the content and engaging again, rather than fussing over where do I need to be, are the cameras right, all that good stuff. Yeah, definitely. And I think we've seen famous concerts and all sorts of things not quite go as planned right at the beginning. The audio's not working. Or it really knocks you off your game. Yeah. Like if you're presenting, I speak a fair bit, and if the AV is going, it's really tough. It's a real test of a presenter to hold it together and not lose it completely. If you want to give them the best opportunity to shine. Yeah, definitely. So that's the challenge. So hopefully we can rise to that challenge and meet it. Awesome. We've got some really great partners, some really great contacts who've really helped us define this journey and define the technology we have. Yeah, I hear from my friends on the partner side that you give you guys have given some good feedback and some really pushed the kit in different scenarios. And talking of that, talk to me about taking rooms into the actual retail stores, because that's really interesting. Yeah, so it's an interesting requirement. So when we started this journey, I never thought I'd deploy into a store, and we're now at 5 stores now that have meeting room equipment. So we have different user cases. So we have so we call opcos. We actually call them operating companies. We call them banners. So our banner Screwfix operates in Ireland and in France and in the UK. So they are different entities with different leadership. And what we've found is they're really keen to not have to enable big head offices and stuff and different, right? You don't want to have to purchase a giant head office and fill it with kit and fill it with chairs and furniture. Actually, they've actually used the stores to be the boardroom meetings. So these stores actually enable the board to come over to Ireland, to France, and have their collaboration, have their hybrid meetings. I love the culture of that as well. It's actually, this is our business. Let's be in the business, not away from the business. Just from a cultural point of view, that's really cool. 100%. And you'll find it's a massive goal for us to be in the stores with colleagues. So if you ever meet anyone else from Kingfisher, they generally would have worked at least a day in a store. We've got some colleagues who've been here for 20 years, and they started off in stores, and they've worked in stores for 10, 15 years before they entered head office. So the store culture is embedded in everything we do. And absolutely, so we've got this really cool boardroom context of trying to use the stores and collaborate with the stores and have the boards closer. And then we've got different scenarios like regional managers. So kind of the regional guys who will look after 50 stores, 70 stores. They all want to come together and try and collaborate better. So there's a number of B&Q stores where we've now strategically placed neat boards in them,
Really great solution, just really simplistic. There's no, nothing that someone could rip the cable out, no PC to mess around with, right? Just a really simple install on the wall that can provide really great collaboration for those regional managers who are knowledge workers. They are head office workers, but they're on the move. They live and breathe stores. They look after these stores.
And the same technology in the store as they would have potentially in the office side, and also the same user experience of laptop to Teams room, which is kind of the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. The colleagues can book exactly like a room in head office. So it's in their Outlook calendar, and it's just like that. They send the invite to the room, and that's it. They can join it straight off the Neat board. So I didn't think we'd be here, but actually we've got these really great user cases, and there's so much great kit in the market that we can just deploy rooms really easily. The Neat board install into the rooms took us less than an hour, which is amazing. And it's been such a great partner that we can enable stores to do this. And that's I think it's also how far the platform's come. I don't know if, 5 years ago you said, let's put an MTR in a B&Q store, right? Like, because the platform has evolved much in 5 years.
The platform, the manageability, and the all-in-one nature of those MTROA boards as well. Like you say, there's nothing to unplug or knock over or break. It's all one network cable, one power cable.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no desktop support, right? There's no IT colleagues around. So in our head offices, we have a dedicated AV engineer to support our colleagues. And actually, stores are very far away from any head office. They are, in the middle of the country, and there's no way you're going to reliably get someone there the same day. So you've got to pick something that is going to be as reliable as it can be for those colleagues.
And what does your manageability look like? Because you've got multiple countries, multiple banners. Like, is that all one ops team? Is it different countries? What's that look like?
Yeah, so it's primarily based out of the UK. We've got 2 AV providers who we've partnered with, who help support the rooms on site and remotely. So the AV partners will help look after making sure the rooms are updated, making sure they're in all the correct portals, as there are many portals for us to look after, making sure the settings are right, the day-to-day checks. So they're doing all that great work. And maybe where we don't have those direct AV consultants, like in Asia, for instance, we don't have them. We partner with the local desktop teams to assist us in making sure those rooms are in a good spot. But the great thing is there's always a load of collaboration there with us highlighting. We see the alerts coming in through MMR or through the Neat portal or Ludgy portal or TAC, depending on where you pick your poison. And it's great collaboration throughout the whole thing. And you can remote onto any of these devices, right, which is amazing. So a lot of the work is we try and do it in the UK. And all those portals support you, right? You can schedule the updates, get the firmware in. You can do all that good stuff. I'd love one portal that rules them all. I'm sure every IT admin would.
There's your request to the product team if they're listening into the pod.
Yeah, there's the request from Paul to rule them all. But yeah, it's a great collaboration between all our different AV partners and local IT to make sure the rooms are up and running and working really well.
Awesome. And that's your rooms journey. Talk to us about voice, because you've gone to Teams for voice as well, I believe. Yeah,
so we started, I think many people in the UK will know that analog lines are being decommissioned by BT. So we really started, when that was announced, we started looking at, okay, what's the next thing, right? And I think everyone would admit VoIP, right, is the big thing, it's the next thing. And obviously, and Teams is a no-brainer for us. We've deployed Teams to 86,000 people in the business across, multiple countries and continents. So Teams Call for us was a relative, easy one to pick. In the UK, we went for direct routing. So we've got direct routing set up with our partner BT for several hundred users. We found when we're doing our move from kind of on-prem calling, the traditional calling, to Teams, many people didn't need their desk phone. Many people didn't need their number. So we saw a reduction in people with that functionality.
Yeah, that's a common story, actually, is rationalizing down, particularly if you're dealing with, like say you're a regional store manager. I guess you're mostly dealing with other people on Teams as well and inside the organization. So that's interesting.
Yeah, there's been some interesting requests around, people, if I use an example, in Ireland, they wouldn't pick up like a UK number. So we've got a great team that's called Site Services that goes out and literally builds these stores, right? They're responsible for getting stores from nothing to open day. And when we're building stores in Ireland, maybe we're building stores in France, they prefer a local number, right? Because if you see an international number, so it's kind of like, how can we meet those requirements with teams? How can we help them with that? How can we provide really quick calling capabilities to a team for maybe a short period of time? Maybe there's investor relations, for instance, or supply chain, right? Who they don't need a mobile all the time. They don't need an expensive iPhone, but actually require the calling. And that's where teams stepped in.
Yep.
And you'll find, most of our logistic teams in the UK and supply teams all have a Teams number to be able to talk to their logistic partners and colleagues across the globe. So it's a really great solution for us. It's deployed incredibly easy. Hopefully no one sees that, there's an SLA on the ticket. But it's such a simplistic process that we can provide, and BT have been a great partner for us, and we're looking to expand it as well. We've just recently moved to E5 licensing SKU, so that opens up some possibilities there with everyone with a phone system license.
Oh yeah.
So now we can really open this up to nearly every colleague in the UK. So
have you been doing any physical IP phones, or is it mostly been soft client and mobile client?
It's been an interesting journey with IP phones. I think there was an interest for some colleagues to keep IP phones, but we did try and really encourage people to move away from them, to be really flexible, and we did settle on. We have a few phones around, some kind of Yealing MP56 phones that help with the kind of case of security, reception, those kinds of user cases. But generally, most teams are very happy with direct calling into the Teams client. It's just more flexible. You do the auto attendance, you do the call queues, and it works. It works great. So, and we've seen some demand for Teams Premium around the calls app, the queue app. Sorry.
Oh yeah, queues. I was going to ask actually, because it feels like there's some good use cases in retail for value to be had there from things like auto attendant and the queues app.
Yeah, definitely. We have a team in Screwfix that deal with HR requests and HR issues and etc. from Screwfix stores internally, and they've been deployed both for Teams number and a number of call queues and auto attendants, and then also they're really keen. They're on the preview calls for the queues app, and which they loved. So they've been using that now for a little while, and really good feedback from that. They've really enjoyed it. So it's definitely a great selling point for that license SKU. And it's also something it's got some great functionality into it as well, like the real-time reporting, which the guys can't get enough of reporting in that user case. They love the reporting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a really great addition to them. They've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And I don't want to leave the pod without getting onto the Copilot journey. We talked about this a while ago. You're doing... you're going down the Copilot road. What are you doing, and what value are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think the Copilot has been a great journey for us. We started at the early access program last year, so we had around 300 licenses. Worked with Microsoft to deploy them into the business. There's a real drive this year, so we have even more than the 300 licenses. We're probably around 1,000 licenses now in the business, so it's a significant uplift. We're really seeing it drive value in that purchasing. We see lots of people from purchasing, from logistics, supply. They've really seen the user cases for that, and they're really encouraged by it, really seeing the automation. I think we're also seeing the Power Platform combined. So we're seeing like Copilot Studio and bots as well is is being used massively in Kingfisher.
Yeah, it's like a force multiplier, isn't it? It's like I can build these line of business scenarios, and I can now AI enable them, and it can do some of the steps for me. Yeah,
definitely. It's the Power Platform's been massively upticked, and part of that is bots. It's interesting. People have kind of gone. They've looked at the Power Platform and gone the Copilot Studio. The bots is the most. They've gravitated to that first, versus doing, say, like flows or apps. It's the bots they've gravitated to, and then they're adding on, SharePoint lists, etc. to power those bots and looking, pointing at the intranets. So it's really interesting to see people gravitate towards building their own bot. So we've got a lot of bots now in Kingfisher. Maybe there's bot envy now is maybe a problem, but it's really great to see. So Copilot has been really an interesting journey. We've done a lot of now user sessions and user training around prompting, because prompting is a massive part of talking to Copilot and the language you use.
I was going to ask, that feels like the thing with Copilot is it needs a lot of adoption handholding. There are obviously going to be some more technically leaning people in any organization that are just personally interested and are reading the blogs and putting forward, but to get adoption really rolling, there's a lot of how do I drive value out of this tool, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen that adoption and those rates increase when you do that adoption. And it's great to see some colleagues, so such as myself, so kind of neurodivergent colleagues, it's like myself, I have dyslexia, and other colleagues who are similar actually love it, because it really helps them either keep track in meetings. So if you see like a lot of the Copilot features built into meetings, meeting summary, stuff like that. People all kinds of different ways of learning. And actually they've found Copilot almost, I know some have said it's necessary for their job. Because,
I couldn't just meeting summaries and being able to query meeting summaries. I don't think I could go back to like the. I find I really miss it on the occasion where I'm on like a federated call or whatever, and it's somebody else's meeting. I'm like, I have to make notes or get them to send me the notes afterwards. Whereas just knowing it's there, you can really engage so much better. Yeah,
definitely. And I know we've got a number of colleagues who have certain disabilities, and they just love Copilot. It's been a massive thing for them, which is really great to see. Actually, that's not a user case I would have thought Copilot coming into it would have aided with, but actually it really does. I know that I can spend many hours redoing my spelling on emails, and actually Copilot's getting quite good at generating emails now in Outlook. And there's some really great user cases for that maybe aren't directly like an improved process, but actually from a people point of view, actually really aids their day to day anyway. And that's probably really what it's about, right? It's just helping people with better at their jobs, really, or aiding them in their jobs to make it a bit easier and actually give them free time to do other things.
Do you see any use cases for interpreter potentially in your organization because you're multi-country, multi-language?
Yeah, there's definitely been some demand for as much as we can for translation and interpretation features in Kingfisher. We've got great like live captions that we can do with Teams Premium, and then that next step is the facilitator, those facilitator agents, and there's definitely. We already had an email from people really interested about it. I think it goes into preview, doesn't it? Kind of mid-year.
Yep.
So we've definitely already discussed it. I think it's a massive opportunity. I mean, we have a number of meetings with colleagues, and especially in like offices. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens around meeting rooms with that agent, because we have multilingual meetings. We bring in translator firms, and we have these really complex meeting room setups to enable that. So it'd be amazing to see what we can do on that software side.
It feels like we're on the verge of democratizing that, aren't we? Like it's and it's great if you've got a meeting that warrants it to have that, and Teams can do that today for people that are not familiar. You can overlay someone signing and translating quite seamlessly from a partner or a real interpreter, but potentially the AI is going to get there and make it accessible to everybody. Yeah, definitely. And the one feedback from the live kind of captions, live translations, you can't ask a question, it only goes one way, it only applies to the speaker, right? So actually it's going to improve the native, I hadn't thought about that. Native language in a two-way can go back and ask in a native language, and that's a really important point.
So that's one of the really big user cases for us is, the business language for Kingfisher is English, but of course we have so many colleagues across Europe and Asia. So anything we can do to just improve that user experience, improve the collaboration within a meeting is great. So it's really exciting to see that. Hopefully get the preview. And I think that's one of those really value add cases for Copilot. Should be really great.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks for sharing the story. It's amazing. I love hearing different use cases and certainly pushing rooms into the retail scenario is definitely the first time I've heard that. So I think you guys are really doing some great progressive work. We'll have to give you a few months to do some new cool things, and then maybe we'll get you back to the user group or back to the podcast or something if you're up for it.
Yeah, definitely. No, I really appreciate it, Tom. That's
awesome. Thanks so much.